Honestly, I couldn't be more grateful for the position that I've been given in my career from 7 to 14 to now.
She was just a little girl from Grand Prairie, Texas, with big eyes and a gentle smile, and no one could have imagined that one day the whole world would know her name. But even from a young age, there was something about Selena Gomez that drew people in, something soft, something real, something that made her stand out even when she didn't try. But behind that warmth was a quiet struggle no one really saw, not even when the cameras started following her every move, because long before she became a global star, Selena was learning how to smile through pain and how to perform even when her heart felt heavy. And that's the part most people don't talk about, because it's easier to focus on the fame, the fans, the glitter, and the red carpets than to see what it costs a young girl to grow up under the weight of the spotlight. And it all began with a broken home, a tough childhood, and a mother who was just 16 when Selena was born. And that meant they didn't have much money, they didn't have much help, and they didn't have an easy life. But they had each other. And Selena grew up watching her mother struggle to give her something better, often working multiple jobs just to keep things going. And maybe that's why Selena learned to be strong so early, why she tried to never complain, and why she always felt she had to be good enough to make it all worth it. And when her mother started taking her to auditions, Selena quickly realized how hard it was to fit in, how the world of show business was full of rejection, how everyone wanted something, and how kids were judged for how they looked, how they talked, how they acted. And even though Selena was still just a child, she had to learn fast, because the smiles were only on the surface, and behind the scenes, it was competition, pressure, and silent fear. Fear of not being good enough, fear of being forgotten, fear of making a mistake. And yet, she kept trying, because something in her believed she could do it, and eventually her moment came when she landed a small role on Barney and Friends. And while most people thought that was just a sweet kids show, what they didn't see was the long hours, the long drives, the exhausting schedules, and the way even children in the industry were expected to act like professionals. And Selena, even though she was barely 10, was already carrying more than most adults. And that never really stopped, because once she entered the world of Disney, everything changed. The lights got brighter, the attention got bigger, and the pressure became almost unbearable. And while her role on Wizards of Waverly Place made her a household name, it also locked her into an image, the cute, funny, innocent girl that everyone loved. But that image wasn't always how she felt inside, and the more famous she became, the more she had to hide what was real. Because in the world of fame, feelings can become a liability. And instead of being asked how she was doing, she was told to smile more, to post more, to be more perfect. And that's when things slowly began to take a toll, but no one really noticed, because she kept performing, kept smiling, kept showing up, even when the light started to hurt her eyes and the compliments started to feel empty. And she was just a teenager, trying to figure out who she was, while millions of people watched her every move, judged her choices, spread rumors about her, and expected her to never break down. And that's the part no one likes to talk about, because we all saw the glamour, the tours, the hit songs, the red carpets, but we didn't see the lonely hotel rooms, the missed birthdays, the deep sadness that grew when the lights turned off. And in interviews she'd laugh and joke, but her eyes always looked like they were carrying something heavier, something she couldn't say out loud. And maybe that's why her disappearances from the spotlight later made so many people confused, because they thought she had it all. But what they didn't understand was that Selena had been carrying the weight of fame since she was a child. And no one can carry that forever without it breaking something inside. And even in those early years, before the headlines, before the scandals, before the hospital visits and rehab rumors, there were signs that Selena was already struggling, already hiding her pain behind her performance, already learning that being famous meant giving away pieces of yourself until you couldn't recognize what was left. And while the world cheered her on, admired her beauty, followed her every post, she was quietly sinking into a kind of emotional exhaustion that no award or applause could fix. And it all started in those early days, when a little girl with dreams stepped into a world that would one day try to tear her apart. And even now, when people look back at her Disney days with nostalgia, Selena herself has said that it wasn't as perfect as it looked, and that behind her success was a child who just wanted to feel normal, to feel safe, and to feel like she didn't have to prove herself every single day. And maybe, if more people had seen the pain behind the smile, they would have understood why she sometimes needed to disappear, not because she didn't love her fans, but because she was trying to survive. And that survival started long before anyone knew her name. She was no longer just a Disney star or a cute child actress with a sweet smile. Selena Gomez had become one of the most famous faces on the planet, and everything about her life seemed perfect from the outside, but the truth was much darker and much heavier than what most people saw on their screens, because fame came fast and hit hard, and as her songs climbed the charts and her movies filled theaters, Selena's private world was slowly falling apart, even if no one could see it yet. And while she smiled on red carpets and waved at screaming fans, something inside her was quietly breaking. Because fame is not always a dream. It can be a beautiful cage, one that locks you inside and doesn't let you rest. And soon Selena began to feel that pressure. The kind that doesn't stop, not even when you're alone. Because once you're a celebrity, there's no escape from the eyes, the cameras, the comments, and the cruel expectations. And for Selena, who had always tried to stay kind and honest, the spotlight started to feel more like a punishment than a reward, and even though she had millions of followers, hit songs, sold-out shows, and glamorous friends, something was missing. Something real. Something peaceful. And as her fame grew, so did the darkness behind it. Because people wanted more and more from her, and every mistake, every tear, every quiet moment became a headline, and every time she tried to be human, the world called it drama, and she couldn't breathe without being watched, judged, and sometimes even hated for things that weren't her fault. And it was during this time that she found herself caught in the middle of a love story that made the world obsess over her personal life even more. Because her relationship with Justin Bieber was no longer just about two young people trying to love each other. It became a storm of gossip, fan wars, and endless media attention. And while the public was busy choosing sides, no one noticed how deeply it was hurting her. How each fight, each breakup, each rumor was leaving scars she couldn't hide. And even though she tried to hold on, to keep smiling, to keep performing, it became harder and harder, because now her music wasn't just about fun or success. It became her only way to express the pain she couldn't say out loud. And the more she sang, the more people noticed something had changed. Her voice was still strong, but her eyes looked different, tired, guarded, almost like she was carrying something too heavy to share. And while everyone kept saying she had everything, she was losing herself slowly, piece by piece, in a world that only wanted the version of her that looked perfect, and no one cared to ask how she was really doing. And during this time, health problems also started to appear. But Selena stayed quiet, didn't explain, didn't complain, just kept going like she always had, because she thought that was her job, to make people happy, to not show weakness, to always be okay, even when she wasn't. And the truth is, she was hurting more than ever, feeling more alone than anyone could imagine, because being famous doesn't protect you from pain, sometimes it makes the pain worse. And while everyone saw the gowns and the awards, behind the scenes she was crying, breaking down, questioning everything, and starting to wonder if disappearing would finally bring her peace. Because when every day feels like a performance and every word you say becomes twisted into gossip, even someone as strong as Selena can begin to fade away, and that's what was happening slowly. She was fading, not from lack of talent, not from failure, but from emotional exhaustion that no one wanted to talk about. And people kept asking why she was different, why she looked so quiet, so distant. But they didn't realize the truth, that fame had become a prison for her, and every time she stepped out into the world, she had to wear a mask just to survive. And even her closest friends didn't always know what to say, because how do you help someone who is admired by millions, but feels completely unseen. And this was the turning point, the moment where everything looked perfect on the outside, but was collapsing inside. And Selena knew it. She felt it. And she tried to fight it, but sometimes the fight just gets too heavy, and she started to think that maybe stepping away from the spotlight was the only way to save herself. Even if the world didn't understand, even if people would talk, even if the headlines would twist it into something it wasn't, because deep down, all she wanted was a little silence, a little space to breathe, and maybe just one person to ask her how she really felt. Not as a star, not as a product, not as a trend, but as a human being who had been giving pieces of herself for too long. And this was the part of her story where the fame she worked so hard for started to turn into something darker, something colder. And the world, so busy watching her shine, didn't see that she was slowly falling apart. And that fall, so quiet and so hidden, was only the beginning of something even more mysterious that was still to come. Something strange started happening that nobody could fully explain. One day, Selena Gomez was everywhere, on stage, on red carpets, in magazines, smiling and shining like the superstar she was. And then, all of a sudden, she was gone. No goodbye, no warning, just silence. Her fans were confused, the media started guessing, and questions filled the internet. Where did she go? Why did she disappear? People thought maybe it was just a short break. Maybe she was working on a secret project, or maybe she needed rest. But weeks passed, then months, and still no sign of her. Her social media went quiet. Her team gave no real answers, and that's when the rumors started getting louder. Some said she had a meltdown. Others whispered about drugs, secret hospital stays, or fights behind the scenes. But no one really knew. All anyone could do was guess. The girl who once shared everything now shared nothing. And that silence was louder than any song. It was haunting. It felt like something was very wrong. Then, quietly, stories started slipping out. Selena had canceled a tour that fans had been waiting for. She had pulled away from public life, and it wasn't the first time. This had happened before too, but back then people didn't notice as much. This time it was different. This time, it felt serious. Journalists tried to dig into her life, but everything seemed hidden. Paparazzi chased her, hoping to catch a picture that would reveal the truth. But she stayed out of sight, almost like she had vanished on purpose, and the mystery kept growing. What was she hiding? Why didn't she explain anything? Behind the scenes, some people close to her said she was struggling. But struggling with what? That's where things got darker. Some reports hinted at health problems, but no one would say what kind. Others said it was emotional, depression, anxiety, trauma, maybe even something more. Still, Selena said nothing. No public statement, no video, just silence. It felt like she had disappeared not just from the spotlight, but from life itself. And the world, so used to watching her every move, didn't know what to do. Was she safe? Was she okay? Or was something seriously wrong? People started putting the pieces together, going back through her interviews, her old posts, looking for clues. They noticed her eyes always looked tired. They remembered how she once said she wished people would understand her pain. Now it all made sense. But also, it didn't. Because no one really knew what she was going through. All they knew was that the happy girl from TV was now a mystery. Her name trended not for her music, but for her absence. And that only made the story more powerful. Because when someone so loved disappears, it doesn't feel normal. It feels like something is being hidden. Some began to wonder if someone was protecting her or controlling her. Was she alone in this choice? Or was someone else behind it? These questions made everything feel darker. Fans became investigators, following every small update, hoping for any sign that she was okay. But it wasn't just fans who noticed. Other celebrities spoke up, saying they were worried about her. Some hinted that they knew more but couldn't say. The mystery kept growing, like a shadow following her even in her silence. And then came the strange public moments. quick appearances where she looked distant, nervous, almost like she didn't want to be there. She would smile, but it looked forced. She would talk, but her words felt guarded. Something about her had changed, and not just because of fame or pressure. It felt deeper. It felt like someone who had been through something big, something painful, something they didn't want to relive. But instead of helping her, the world demanded answers. People wanted gossip, they wanted drama, and that only pushed her further away. She had gone from being America's sweetheart to a woman who had to fight for her peace, and it seemed like she was losing that fight. Her disappearances became more frequent, more confusing. One moment she was back in the studio, and the next she was gone again. No pattern, no warning, just these quiet exits that left everyone guessing. And each time she returned, she looked a little different. Not just in style or mood, but in spirit, like something inside her had dimmed. Like the weight she was carrying had only gotten heavier. And even though she tried to move on, to be strong, to smile for the cameras, the truth was clear. Selena Gomez wasn't just taking a break. She was disappearing again and again because the world had taken too much from her. Her silence was her shield. Her absence was her escape. And while the world kept asking what happened, the real question was, how much more could she take before she disappeared for good? And then, the truth started to come out. Not all at once, not in a big dramatic speech, but slowly, in little pieces that painted a picture far more painful than anyone expected. And when Selena finally spoke, it wasn't for attention or fame, it was because she couldn't keep hiding anymore, and what she revealed shocked many people, even though the signs had been there all along. Because behind the music, behind the beauty, behind the perfect smile, there was a young woman quietly fighting battles that no one could see. And the real reason for her disappearances wasn't drama or scandal. It was survival, because Selena Gomez had been facing health problems that were far more serious than people ever guessed. And one of them was lupus, a disease that doesn't just hurt the body, but also drains the mind and spirit, and she had been dealing with it in silence for years. All while still working, still smiling, still trying to be strong for everyone watching her. And most people had no idea what lupus was. So when she revealed it, many didn't understand how hard it really was, how it causes pain all over your body, how it can make you so tired that even standing up feels like too much. And still she pushed through it, until her body finally gave up and she needed a kidney transplant just to stay alive. And that news shocked the world because people didn't know how close she had come to losing everything. And even though her friend gave her a kidney, which saved her life, it didn't end the pain. It just gave her another chance to keep going. But that wasn't all she was dealing with, because along with her physical health, her mental health had also been falling apart, and in interviews she quietly admitted to feeling broken, to having anxiety so strong it made her feel like she couldn't breathe, and to having depression so deep it made her not want to get out of bed, and sometimes, even worse, thoughts she didn't know how to control. And it was during those times that she disappeared from the spotlight, not to hide from fame, but to protect herself, to get help, to try and heal before it was too late. But instead of support, the world gave her rumors. Instead of peace, they gave her gossip. And every time she tried to step back and rest, people would ask what was wrong with her, as if needing to heal was something shameful. And that's when it became clear that the same spotlight that once made her feel special was now burning her. And when she entered treatment for mental health, she didn't do it for show, she did it because she truly needed it. And during those stays, she wasn't being dramatic. She was trying to stay alive, to fight off the darkness that had grown inside her for so long. And she later said that therapy saved her, that speaking to someone, learning how to cope, and finally being honest with herself was the only way she could begin to feel human again. And while many people judged her for disappearing again and again, they didn't see that each time she left, she was doing it because staying would have destroyed her. Because pretending to be okay when you're not is the most dangerous thing a person can do, and Selena knew that. She had tried it for too long, and now she was done pretending. And this part of her story isn't just sad, it's terrifying, because it shows how close she came to the edge, how many times she smiled while breaking inside, and how strong she had to be just to keep going. And while the world had called her weak, lazy, or troubled, she was actually one of the strongest people out there, facing her pain, speaking her truth, and choosing to step away when it got too much. And yet, even with all this truth, even with her courage to speak out, the mystery didn't fully go away because there were still moments where she would vanish, go quiet, disappear again. And each time it left people wondering if something new had happened, something worse, something that hadn't been revealed yet. And that's the part that still makes people curious, still makes them ask. Because while she has shared so much, there's still a sense that some parts of her story are being kept private, maybe to protect herself, maybe because the pain is still too fresh, or maybe because the full story is darker than we even know, and that's what keeps this mystery alive, this feeling that there's more beneath the surface, more that hasn't been said, and that no matter how much Selena tries to move forward, the shadows of what she's been through still follow her, quietly, silently, reminding everyone that behind the fame, behind the music, behind the name, is a woman who almost lost herself to the very world that claimed to love her. Even after everything she revealed, the illness, the pain, the mental health struggles, there was still something people couldn't understand, something that kept Selena Gomez wrapped in mystery. Because even now, after all the truth she shared, she still disappears without warning, still vanishes from the spotlight like a shadow fading into the night. And every time it happens, people ask the same questions all over again. Is she okay? Is she struggling again? Or is there something we still don't know, and the silence only makes it worse? Because in today's world where celebrities post everything, where people share every meal, every thought, every moment online, Selena's silence feels louder than a scream, and fans worry, the media starts guessing, and the whispers grow. Maybe it's another health crisis. Maybe she's hiding from something bigger, something darker. And even though she sometimes comes back with a song or a post, she never explains much. And that makes the mystery even deeper, because she knows people are watching. She knows the questions are there, but she keeps her distance, protects her peace, and walks away when the pressure builds too high. And that makes people wonder if there's more to the story, something she hasn't said, something she can't say, maybe something about the industry itself, about how fame really works. Because not everyone who disappears is running away from themselves. Some are running from the people who control the spotlight, who decide what's shown and what's hidden. And there have been moments where Selena hinted at that. Little comments about needing space, about being tired of being used, about needing to break free. And those comments stayed in people's minds, like puzzle pieces that don't quite fit. And even though she has spoken bravely about her health, there's a quiet fear in her eyes sometimes, a look that says she's still guarding something. And maybe it's the trauma, maybe it's the pressure of always being watched, or maybe it's a truth she's not ready to face out loud. And when she disappears now, it's not with panic or excuses, it's with silence. A silence that feels more powerful than any scandal, because it makes people wonder what really goes on when the cameras are off. And when Selena steps away, she doesn't just leave social media. She vanishes from events, from interviews, from the world. And some people say it's healing, but others wonder if she's hiding from something dangerous, something inside the very world that made her famous. And that's what makes her story so haunting. Because even after all she's been through, even after fighting so hard to stay alive, she's still not free. Not really. Because her fame keeps pulling her back, and with it comes all the pain, the judgment, the memories she's trying to forget, and it's heartbreaking to think that someone so loved still feels the need to escape just to survive. But maybe that's the truth no one wants to accept, that being in the spotlight doesn't just take your privacy, it can take your soul, piece by piece, until the only way to protect yourself is to disappear completely. And maybe that's why Selena keeps doing it. Maybe that's why she stays quiet when people ask too many questions. Maybe that's why she chooses silence over stories. Because after years of being picked apart, of being turned into headlines, of being seen as a symbol instead of a person, maybe the only way she can keep herself whole is by stepping away, again and again. And even though some fans say they understand, there's still a part of the world that wants more, that keeps watching, keeps digging, keeps waiting for something new to break. And that pressure never truly leaves her. It just waits quietly until she returns. And that's the most painful part of her journey. Because every time she tries to come back, she has to face the same noise, the same gossip, the same expectations, and each time it takes a little more out of her, and you can see it in her face, in her voice, in the way she sometimes looks past the camera like she's somewhere else, somewhere safer, somewhere quiet. And the truth is, Selena Gomez doesn't just disappear because she's sick or tired or broken. She disappears because the world won't stop taking from her, won't stop expecting her to be everything, to be strong, to be perfect, to be available. And no one can live like that forever. So she disappears to survive, to breathe, to find herself again. And maybe that's the lesson hidden in her story, that sometimes strength doesn't look like fighting. Sometimes it looks like walking away. And even if the world never fully understands, maybe she doesn't need them to. Because deep down, Selena knows what she's been through, what she's still going through. And that's why her silence says more than words ever could. It tells a story of a girl who was pushed too far, of a woman who is still healing, and of a soul that refuses to be broken, even if it means vanishing again into the shadows just to feel whole again.